Shabbat Shalom. We already said the prayer and had the trumpet blast before the recording. So welcome to this second part of the book of Judges. We will be reading chapters 6 through 10. Please say a prayer to be guided through this message individually, but let us begin. Chapter 6 of Judges, verse 1.
Judges 6. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years. And the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel, and because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made them the dens which are in the mountains and caves and strongholds. And so it was, when Israel had sown, that the Midianites came up, and the Amalekites and the children of the east, even they came up against them, and they encamped against them, and destroyed the increase of the earth, till thou come unto Gaza, and left no sustenance for Israel, neither sheep, nor ox, nor ass. For they came up with their cattle and their tents, and they came as grasshoppers for multitude, for both they and their camels were without number. And they entered into the land to destroy it. And Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites, and the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. And it came to pass, when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord because of the Midianites, that the Lord sent a prophet unto the children of Israel, which said unto them, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I brought you up from Egypt, and brought you forth out of the house of bondage. And I delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of all that oppressed you, and drave them out from before you, and gave you their land. I said unto you, I am the Lord your God. Fear not the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. But ye have not obeyed my voice.
All right, let's get the first stop right there. And let's recap. So we see that this is right after Deborah. Let's go and look at that, at this timeline here. So this is a good review, starting with Moses. Then we go into the book of Joshua. And then the judges. The judges are the blue and white squares here. So we start off with Othniel, Ehud, Shamgar, into Deborah, and the warrior leader Barak. And then it was 40 years peace. This is what we ended on last week of chapter 5. And now, beginning of chapter 6, it starts off in the right after passing of Deborah. There's 7 years of oppression from the Midianites. And we haven't even got to Gideon yet, but he'll right here from verse 11 on is when Gideon is called upon to be a judge of the children of Yasharallah. And for whatever it is, I mean, look at the consistency. Just looking at this visual here. Every single blue gap of peace and the time after the judge dies, right into captivity. I mean, how could you explain this? It really is kind of crazy to see how easy it is to fall off, especially from one generation to the next, is the particular detail that I'm getting from it. And all that being said, this is just a review. I highly recommend to watch the other parts through Judges and all the Torah that's on my YouTube to get the full capacity, but this is just a basic review of what we're at right now. And some of the details I want to point out here. We see that there's a direct correlation of when you do evil, the Most High oppresses you. This happens over and over again. Oppression is a form of discipline that he humbles his people. And at the very end of the first 10 verses we read, it says that he sends a prophet. And this prophet came to Israel and says the same message all throughout the book. that do not fear other gods. You were put in bondage because you have forsaken me. You have worshiped their gods, but ye have not obeyed my voice. It's the same. This is the same exact thing. There's nothing new under the sun all the way up into our day. Keep his commandments. Stay away from idols and obey his voice. All right. There's our recap. This is where we're at. And at the end of the 7 years, calls on Gideon. Starting off, excuse me, in verse 11.
And there came an angel of the Lord and sat under an oak which was in Ophrah, that pertained unto Joash the Abiezrite. And his son Gideon threshed wheat by the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him, and said unto him, The Lord is with thee, thou mighty man of valor. And Gideon said unto him, O my Lord, if the Lord be with us, why then is all this befallen us? And where be all his miracles which our fathers told us of, saying, Did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt? But now the Lord hath forsaken us, and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites. And the Lord looked upon him, and said, Go in this thy might, and thou shalt save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have not I sent thee? And he said unto him, O my Lord, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. And the Lord said unto him, Surely I will be with thee, and thou shalt smite the Midianites as one man. And he said unto him, If now I have found grace in thy sight, then show me a sign that thou talkest with me. Depart not hence, I pray thee, until I come unto thee, and bring forth my present, and set it before thee. And he said, I will tarry until thou come again. And Gideon went in, and made ready a kid, and unleavened cakes of an ephah flour. The flesh he put in a basket, and he put the broth in a pot, and brought it out unto him under the oak, and presented it. And the angel of God said unto him, Take the flesh and the unleavened cakes, and lay them upon this rock, and pour out the broth. And he did so. Then the angel of the Lord put forth the end of the staff that was in his hand, and touched the flesh and the unleavened cakes. And there rose up fire out of the rock, and consumed the flesh and the unleavened cakes. And then the angel of the Lord departed out of his sight. And when Gideon perceived that he was an angel of the Lord, Gideon said, Alas, O Lord God, for because I have seen an angel of the Lord face to face. And the Lord said unto him, Peace be unto thee, fear not, thou shalt not die. Then Gideon built an altar there unto the Lord, and called it Jehovah Shalom. Until this day it is yet in Ophrah of the Abiezrites.
All right. We're starting at verse 11. We see that he calls upon Gideon, and it's funny because verse 13, when Gideon responds, is to say, "Oh my Lord, if Yah be with us, why then is all this befallen us?" And I don't know, it's because they're oppressed and there is some good seeds amongst them that is saying this. Maybe that's the perspective, because the prophet that he sent beforehand told you why you were being oppressed. As a people, they have forsaken the Most High. But obviously, he's calling upon Gideon because Gideon has got to be a righteous soul. And so I can see that from a righteous person perspective. Like, why have you forsaken me? But as a people, they have broken that covenant. And then he asks for confirmation, which we'll see that Gideon asked for many confirmations. I don't know what's the deal. He's like the only judge that does this type of methods, but the Most High gives it to him, and he establishes his promise that he will help Gideon deliver his people, or Gideon will help the Most High deliver his people. And then I also wanted to talk about verse 22 here. And when Gideon perceived that he was an angel of the Most High. Gideon said, alas, O Adon Elohim, for because I have seen an angel of the Most High face to face. This reminds me of Genesis chapter 32, verse 30. And Yaakov called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. And this is the part of Genesis that Jacob wrestles with an angel. And so all of this to be said is that John 1:18, no man has seen Elohim the Father at any time, the only begotten Son, or the sons of Elohim, angels, which is in the bosom of the Father, he has declared him. And so all these situations I have seen an angel of the Most High face to face. I've seen God face to face. Yes, these is his children, the sons of the Most High, or who is sent in his name, especially in this realm. And anybody that have seen an angel and said they have seen God face to face, this is the images that they are seeing, the sons of God. All right, let's continue in chapter 6, verse 25.
And it came to pass the same night that the Lord said unto him, Take thy father's young bullock, even the second bullock of 7 years old, and throw down the altar of Baal that thy father hath, and cut down the grove that is by it, and build an altar unto the Lord thy God upon the top of this rock, in the ordered place. And take the second bullock, and offer a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the grove which thou shalt cut down. Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants, and did as the Lord had said unto him. And so it was, because he feared his father's household and the men of the city, that he could not do it by day, that he did it by night. And when the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was cast down, and the grove was cut down that was by it, and the second bullock was offered upon the altar that was built. And they said one to another, Who hath done this thing? And when they inquired and asked, they said, Gideon the son of Joash hath done this thing. Then the men of the city said unto Joash, Bring out thy son, that he may die, because he hath cast down the altar of Baal, and because he hath cut down the grove that was by it. And Joash said unto all that stood against him, Will ye plead for Baal? Will ye save him? He that will plead for him, let him be put to death, whilst it is yet morning. If he be a god, let him plead for himself, because one hath cast down his altar. Therefore, that day he called him Jerubbaal, saying, Let Baal plead against him, because he hath thrown down his altar.
All right, we have Gideon standing on business. And I say Gideon because in verse 31, we see what we see in verse 29. They said to Joash to get Gideon thy son, bring out thy son to Joash, that he may die. And then it says Joash says all of this, but looking into the Septuagint, verse 31 in the Septuagint here, it says, And Gideon the son of Joash said to all the men who rose up against him, Do ye now plead for Baal? And will ye save him? Whoever will plead for him, let him be slain this morning. If he be a god, let him plead for himself, because one has thrown down his altar. Man, he stood on business so much right here. They gave him a name, Jerubbaal, which means let Baal plead thereby, because his altar has been thrown down. Gideon's like, let Baal come in and confront me. Everybody, y'all trying to do all this commotion for a God that is not present, is the point he's making. He's not going to do anything to him, right? All right, so let's continue here. So Gideon destroys their altars, their idols. Let's continue. Verse 33.
Then all the Midianites and the Amalekites and the children of the east were gathered together, and went over and pitched in the valley of Jezreel. But the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, and Abiezer was gathered after him. And he sent messengers throughout all Manasseh, who also was gathered after him. And he sent messengers unto Asher, and unto Zebulun, and unto Naphtali, and they came up to meet them. And Gideon said unto God, If thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said, behold, I will put a fleece of wool in the floor. And if the dew be on the fleece only, and it be dry upon all the earth beside, then shall I know that thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said. And it was so. For he rose up early on the morrow, and thrust the fleece together, and wring the dew out of the fleece, a bowl full of water. And Gideon said unto God, Let not thine anger be hot against me, and I will speak but this once. Let me prove, I pray thee, but this once with the fleece. Let it now be dry only upon the fleece, and upon all the ground let there be dew. And God did so that night, for it was dry upon the fleece only, and there was dew on all the ground.
All right. Well, Gideon has gotten 3 confirmations now. We've seen that he gave the offering as a confirmation. And then now we have the dew on the fleece, and then the dew on the ground and not on the fleece. So, and this is what we have to understand as well. Gideon, the Most High make a mistake picking Gideon, even though it seems like there's a lack of faith that he has chosen to do these tasks. But the Most High knows the weaknesses Gideon has, and the Most High is completely okay with it. He's not looking for someone that doesn't have any like flaws in their just everyday process. He's looking for a righteous soul, and clearly Gideon is that man. And so, regardless of, we're reading this right now, and we're, even myself, I'll be like, "Dang, Gideon, how many times are you going to ask for a confirmation?" But the Most High didn't flinch. The Most High did it every time. And obviously he knew that he was going to ask. And the Most High had no problem with it. So if the Most High ain't got no problem with it, I don't. But that doesn't mean he did lack maybe some faith in the conversations he was having with the Most High. But either way, Gideon was a righteous man and leader that will deliver his people in this time of the book of Judges. And so now going up to verse 34 here, we see that he blows the trumpet. And every time we see the trumpet, I want us to understand that every time we see it in this chapter or in this book, it's a ram's horn. This is blowing a ram's horn. Let's do it one more again. Blow a ram on every single time. That's what they are blowing, because we're going to see that this is a pretty significant part of this reading today, is these ram's horns they will be blowing. It is a part of the instrument of war, from Jericho to right now in Judges to the last great trumpet in Revelation. Trumpets are synonymous with using for war. And then also we got Abiezer was gathered after him when Gideon blew the trumpet, which is pointing out who this is. We see here And there was also a lot for the rest of the children of Manasseh by their families for the children of Abiezer. So these are Manassanites, children of Manasseh. Just giving clarity to the details that we are reading. And as we see, it's confirmed there. And he sent messengers throughout Manasseh because that is obviously where he was at. All right. And that is the conclusion of chapter 6. Chapter 7.
Judges 7. Then Jerubbaal, who was Gideon, and all the people that were with him, rose up early, and pitched beside the well of Harod, so that the host of the Midianites were on the north side of them, by the hill of Moreh in the valley. And the Lord said unto Gideon, The people that are with thee are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, Mine own hand hath saved me.
Just already stop at verse 2. This is just crazy. The Most High is straight up in the first portion of this chapter. He's like, send the majority of these people home. I didn't need all of these people. I don't want all of these warriors here because y'all going to think like y'all want it because of how many of y'all are here. And we've seen all throughout scripture. Oops, not 15:4. I don't know how I wrote it. 15:3 in Exodus. Right here. The Most High, Haya, is a man of war. Yasha is his name. Exodus 14:14, the Most High shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. The Most High is proving a point. He's not trying to make y'all seem like y'all can boast about yourselves because y'all got together and won a battle. He's proving a point that he's the one delivering you from this oppression. In a nutshell, that's what the beginning of this chapter is about. And as in verse 6, just recapping in chapter 6, verse 8 and 10, what did the prophet say? He sent a prophet to Yasharallah and said to them, Thus says the Most High, I brought you from Egypt and brought you out of the house of bondage. What is he about to do? They're in bondage and oppression with the Midianites. Verse 10, and I said unto you, I am Haya Elohim, fear not the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell, but ye have not obeyed my voice. So the entire point of this battle and to lift them out of oppression is not to make it, not to give them an idea that they are strong warriors and whatever. He is trying to show them he's the one that's going to lift them out of this. So listen to my voice. The entire point of it, which is I'm setting the scene for this chapter because we're going to see the numbers starts off, I think, 32,000 Israelites, and we'll see where the Most High dwindles it all the way down to. Let us continue with verse 3 here.
Now therefore go to, proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, Whosoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead. And there returned to the people 22,000, and there remained 10,000.
So there we go. 22,000. So he said, anybody that is afraid, go home. And out of, so we have 22,000 plus 10,000 that remained. So 32,000 Israelites are there. And he said, go home if you're afraid. And this is actually scripture. This is Torah. The Most High doesn't pressure anyone that is afraid to go to war. We see this in Deuteronomy 20, verse 8. And the officers shall speak further unto the people, and they shall say, what man is there that is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go and return unto his house, lest his brethren's heart faint as well as his heart. He's saying, fear is a disease. And before it spreads, just go home. Instead of infecting the entire flock of soldiers, the Most High does not want fearful men in his army. So that's a testimony. All of these, this entire book, we can reflect on our lives now. Being a soldier of the Most High, you can't be scared. Can't be scared to die for the Most High. Or he's going to be like, go home. Do not want you. You're not meant to be here. So, set the scene. It starts off with 32,000. Let's keep reading. Verse 4.
And the Lord said unto Gideon, the people are yet too many. Bring them down into the water, and I will try them for thee there. And it shall be that of whom I say unto thee, this shall go with thee, the same shall go with thee. And of whomsoever I say unto thee, this shall not go with thee, the same shall not go. So he brought down the people unto the water. And the Lord said unto Gideon, every one that lappeth of the water with his tongue, as a dog lappeth, him shalt thou set by himself. Likewise every one that boweth down upon his knees to drink. And the number of them that lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, were 300 men. But all the rest of the people bowed down upon their knees to drink water. And the Lord said unto Gideon, by the 300 men that lapped will I save you, and deliver the Midianites into thine hand. And let all the other people go every man unto his place. So the people took victuals in their hand, and their trumpets, and he sent all the rest of Israel every man unto his tent, and retained those 300 men, and the host of Midian was beneath him in the valley.
So there's the final number there. 300. Sounds like a movie. 300 men the Most High handpicked from 32,000. I mean, okay. You see that he's making a point here. Because we're going to see later in Judges chapter 8, I'm just going to straight up tell you, later in Judges 8, we're going to see that was about 15,000 men that, let me see, it's 15,000 plus 120,000. So we're looking at 300 men versus 135,000. And the Most High thought 32,000 was too many. They were already outnumbered. But the Most High was like, I'm making a point here. This battle is not to be won by you, it's to be won by me. So we have the scene set, 300 versus 135,000. And then before we continue, I wanted to give an imagery right here for what we were reading here. He says there's two different people that go down. He said, take them down by the water and let them drink. And those that drink from their knees and lappeth the water with his tongue like a dog, send them home. But he was like, those that lap the water by putting their hand to their mouth, those 300 take with you. So this is the visual he's speaking of here. We have on their knees, lapping with their tongue like a dog, putting their head to the water. And then we have We have no, it's those that lap the tongue like the dog he sent home. This is the people he sent home. Those that bring the water to their mouth with their hands is who he kept. Those were the 300. Just to clear it up here, it was, what is it, verse 6 here? And the number of them that lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, were 300 men. But all the rest of the people that bowed down upon their knees to drink water, which was with their tongues, as a dog lappeth. And so, yes, everybody else went home that was drinking this way, and there was 300 men that drank water this way that he told to stay, just to clear up the details there. So I don't know. I guess this encourages you to drink water like this, right? I'm drinking water like this if I ever go buy living water now. For some reason, the Most High was like, no, just say it. All right, continuing now. So now the scene is set. The war scene is set. 300 men have been chosen, and then now the host of Midian was beneath him in the valley. And we're now about to see what they're going to do with those ram's horns amongst the 300 men. What's the war plan Gideon has for the people?
And it came to pass the same night that the Lord said unto him, Arise, get thee down unto the host, for I have delivered it into thine hand. But if thou fear to go down, go thou with Phurah thy servant down to the host, and thou shalt hear what they say, and afterward shall thine hands be strengthened to go down unto the host. Then went he down with Phurah his servant unto the outside of the armed men that were in the host. And the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the children of the east lay along in the valley like grasshoppers for multitude, and their camels were without number, as the sand by the seaside for multitude. And when Gideon was come, behold, there was a man that told a dream unto his fellow, and said, Behold, I dreamed a dream, and lo, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the host of Midian, and came unto a tent, and smote it, that it fell, and overturned it, that the tent lay along. And his fellow answered and said, This is nothing else save the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. For into his hand hath God delivered Midian and all the host.
And that's coming from the Midianites. He just to clarify what's happening here, he told Gideon to go down there with his servant to the Midianites. And this is what was told to each other. One person came with the dream, the other one gave the interpretation, and Gideon was like, oh, this is a confirmation. This is what the Most High wanted me to hear, that even they know. This is a very important factor that we're going to read the remainder of this chapter. The people of Midian is already struck with fear of Gideon and the Most High. Very important part of this. And also going up here for verse 11, just an interesting detail here. It's all about the armed men, and they went down to the host of men. The Septuagint, just comparing it. Let's go chapter 7, verse 11. Just another little detail here. And thou shalt hear what they shall say, which is the interpretation of the dream vision. And afterwards, thy hand shall be strong, and thou shalt go down into the camp. And here it is. To the extremity of the companies of 50, which were in the camp. Just a little detail, thought I'd add, because why not? He went in every camp had 50 men, and he went amongst a camp of 50 men, and that is what he heard. All right, let's read the rest of chapter 7.
And it was so, when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and the interpretation thereof, that he worshipped and returned into the host of Israel, and said, Arise, for the Lord hath delivered into your hand the host of Midian. And he divided the 300 men into 3 companies, and he put a trumpet in every man's hand, with empty pitchers and lamps within the pitchers. And he said unto them, Look on me, and do likewise. And behold, when I come to the outside of the camp, it shall be that as I do, so shall ye do. When I blow with the trumpet, I and all that are with me, then blow ye the trumpets also on every side of all the camp, and say, The sword of the Lord and of Gideon. So Gideon and the 100 men that were with him came unto the outside of the camp in the beginning of the middle watch. And they had but newly set the watch. And they blew the trumpets and brake the pitchers that were in their hands. And the 3 companies blew the trumpets and brake the pitchers, and held the lamps in their left hands, and the trumpets in their right hands to blow withal. And they cried, The sword of the Lord and of Gideon. And they stood every man in his place round about the camp. And all the host ran and cried and fled. And the 300 blew the trumpets. And the Lord set every man's sword against his fellow, even throughout all the host. And the host fled to Beth-shittah in Zererath, and to the border of Abel-meholah, unto Tabbath. And the men of Israel gathered themselves together out of Naphtali, and out of Asher, and out of all Manasseh, and pursued after the Midianites. And Gideon sent messengers throughout all Mount Ephraim, saying, Come down against the Midianites, and take before them the waters unto Beth-barah and Jordan. Then all the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together, and took the waters unto Beth-barah and Jordan. And they took 2 princes of the Midianites, Oreb and Zeb. And they slew Oreb upon the rock Oreb, and Zeb they slew at the winepress of Zeb, and pursued Midian, and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon on the other side Jordan.
All right. Quick recap. We have, as I said, they already knew of Gideon and were fearful of them, especially after, remember the Most High said, anyone, we just read in Deuteronomy, anyone that is fearful, go home. So you don't spread that fear amongst your brethren. That's exactly what happened to the Midianites when Gideon heard them talking amongst each other, that the Most High has delivered them in the hands of Gideon. This is why the important part that struck fear and chaos in the camp of the Midianites, of the 135,000, when the plan was to have pitchers, and in the pitchers they had lamps, and so they break the pitchers and lights all around them. They've broken up in 3 companies of 100. So amongst the camp, imagine being in a valley. The Midianites are in a valley, and you're already talking amongst each other like, what? Someone's having visions, or we're about to die? And then you hear a trumpet blast, and 300 light lamps surround your camp. And it says out loud, the sword of the Most High, and of Gideon. Bruh, you like, we about to die. We just got done saying we've been handed in. And this is what happens. And that is what struck chaos and made the slaughtering of their army so much easy, because they're running around like chickens with their head cut off, as people would say. And so that is the scene. And you couldn't imagine what this could have looked like. This would be a kind of a cool little movie scene, right? This battle. And so I also wanted to give a little visual of the travels. They gathered, Naphtali, Zebulun, Asher, Manasseh, all these armies gathered, and this is where the Most High said, I don't need all of this. And only 300 remained. And the battle begins, and we're going to see this continues in chapter 8. But the Midianites travel, and they're leaving in chaos. And we read at the end of this chapter 7 that he calls upon Ephraim, and Ephraim meets them for battle, and Ephraim slays 2 princes of the Midianites. And the last part, this little section here, is where chapter 8 picks up after Ephraim joins the battle as they go further south. Right? Imagine being on the wrong side of a horror movie and you know it, and it's real life. That's what that sounded like, right? All right, and that's chapter 7. So let's continue this reading in 8 and finish this battle.
Judges 8. And the men of Ephraim said unto him, Why hast thou served us thus, that thou callest us not, when thou wentest to fight with the Midianites? And they did chide with him sharply. And he said unto them, What have I done now in comparison of you? Is not the gleaning of the grapes of Ephraim better than the vintage of Abiezer? God hath delivered into your hands the princes of Midian, Oreb, and Zeb. And what was I able to do in comparison of you? Then their anger was abated toward him when he had said that.
So simply put, we see Ephraim is further down south. So that's probably just the basic reason why they wasn't called. And we see that the Most High didn't even need the 32,000. So it was just unnecessary to call upon Ephraim, evidently. But Ephraim's upset. And, I have no problem with the reason why they're upset, because they want to be a part of the battle. And I don't have any problems with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with hey, why didn't you call upon us if y'all were going to war? And he's like, Gideon's like, calm down. You're the one that just slayed their princes. We made them flee, and you are the one gleaning the harvest. You're getting the good parts of the harvest right now anyway. So what you did comparison to what we have done, why are you upset about it? And then they were like, oh yeah, you're right. I mean, the Most High did hand us the princes, and we did get into battle. And that's pretty much what just happened there at the beginning of chapter 8. So let's continue with verse 4.
And Gideon came to Jordan and passed over, he and the 300 men that were with him, faint yet pursuing them. And he said unto the men of Succoth, Give, I pray you, loaves of bread unto the people that follow me, for they be faint, and I am pursuing after Zebah and Zalmunna, kings of Midian.
And just to look back now, so we see this is after they meet up with Ephraim, and they go across Jordan, and they're right at Succoth.
And the princes of Succoth said, Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in thine hand, that we should give bread unto thine army? And Gideon said, Therefore when the Lord hath delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into mine hand, then I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars. And he went up thence to Penuel, and spake unto them likewise. And the men of Penuel answered him as the men of Succoth had answered him. And he spake also unto the men of Penuel, saying, When I come again in peace, I will break down this tower. Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor, and their hosts with them, about 15,000 men.
One last look here. So Penuel, and then now Karkor. Okay. Where we're at, and where the battle ends.
All that were left of all the hosts of the children of the east. For there fell 120,000 men that drew sword.
So as we stated earlier, there was 15,000 remaining that was left for 120,000 already died. And we're talking from the 300 men with Gideon and the people of Ephraim, the soldiers of Ephraim that aided in the killing of the princes of Midian already as well. So 120,000 and only 15,000 left now. Well, like I said, 135,000 total and 15,000 remaining.
And Gideon went up by the way of them that dwelt in tents on the east of Nobah and Jogbeah, and smote the host, for the host was secure. And when Zebah and Zalmunna fled, he pursued after them, and took the 2 kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and discomfited all the host. And Gideon the son of Joash returned from battle before the sun was up, and caught a young man of the men of Succoth, and inquired of him. And he described unto him the princes of Succoth and the elders thereof, even 70 men. And he came unto the men of Succoth, and said, Behold, Zebah and Zalmunna, with whom ye did upbraid me, saying, Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in thine hand, that we should give bread unto thy men that are weary? And he took the elders of the city, and thorns of the wilderness, and briars, and with them he taught the men of Succoth. And he beat down the tower of Penuel, and slew the men of the city.
Just as he promised he was like, pretty much the people, the elders of Succoth and Penuel was like, you say you're going after them, but they're the ones running the land right now. Remember, Midianites have been oppressing the children of Israel and have been running that area for the last 7 years. For the last 7 years. And so they're like, but you don't got them captive, so we're not helping you. You're not running anything. And he's like, oh, so you're showing your alliance. Keep that energy when I come back. And he's back now. And he literally has the 2 leaders, the captains, in his possession. I mean, he's flexing on them. And he's doing what he promised that he was going to do in verse 6 and 7. Verbatim. Therefore, when they are delivered in my hands, then I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars, and he will tear down the tower in Penuel. Is exactly what happened here that he said he was going to do. Verse 16 and 17. All right, let's continue verse 18.
Then said he unto Zebah and Zalmunna, What manner of men were they whom ye slew at Tabor? And they answered, As thou art, so were they. Each one resembled the children of a king. And he said, They were my brethren, even the sons of my mother. As the Lord liveth, if ye had saved them alive, I would not slay you. And he said unto Jether, his firstborn, Up, and slay them. But the youth drew not his sword, for he feared, because he was yet a youth. Then Zebah and Zalmunna said, Rise thou, and fall upon us, for as the man is, so is his strength. And Gideon arose, and slew Zebah and Zalmunna, and took away the ornaments that were on their camels' necks. Then the men of Israel said unto Gideon, Rule thou over us, both thou and thy son, and thy son's son also, for thou hast delivered us from the hand of Midian. And Gideon said unto them, I will not rule over you, neither shall my son rule over you. The Lord shall rule over you. And Gideon said unto them, I would desire a request of you, that ye would give me every man the earrings of his prey. For they had golden earrings, because they were Ishmaelites. And they answered, We will willingly give them. And they spread a garment, and did cast therein every man the earrings of his prey. And the weight of the golden earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold, beside ornaments and collars and purple raiment that was on the king of Midian, and beside the chains that were about their camels' necks. And Gideon made an ephod thereof, and put it in his city, even in Ophrah. And all Israel went thither a whoring after it, which thing became a snare unto Gideon and to his house.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and stop there. I just want to make a point here that Gideon asked for the gold from the golden earrings that he requested from all of those that were slain. and he made an ephod. Y'all know what an ephod is, right? Who's gonna tell me what that is first? Pop quiz. What's an ephod? I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. The priestly breastplate, yes. And so I got a visual. He made a golden one. Let me see. And Gideon made an ephod thereof and put it in his city. And they went a whoring after it. This is why we can't make up what we're going to do and what we're going to make and say we're going to do it for the Most High. And check out this visual. A golden ephod. Don't that look like a chain? That reminds me of modern day Jesus pieces. These little idols that we put around our necks. That's pure gold, right? And I can see just how we see people nowadays lusting after gold chains, making them their idols, wearing idols on these chains. And there's nothing new under the sun. The way we feel about stuff like that, or can feel about stuff like that in our time, is the same thing that they could have felt in their time. And you'd be like, oh man, look at that golden ephod that Gideon brought back home from battle, man. I want that. Bro, I want that. You can see that happening. By no coincidence, we still see that nowadays. And I ain't gonna lie, it's kind of fresh. I see it. I'm like, yo, especially if it's from war, the treasures from war melted into a golden ephod. Had it been big, beautiful, yes, I can see people lusting for that. Absolutely. Anything can become an idol. Absolutely. All right. Just had to show that. Give that vision of what people are lusting after and how closely related it is to what people are lusting after nowadays. All right, let's finish off this chapter now, verse 28 through 35.
Thus was Midian subdued before the children of Israel, so that they lifted up their heads no more. And the country was in quietness 40 years in the days of Gideon.
Back to this timeline. And so now we see we had the 7 years of the oppression of the Midianites, Gideon's battle, and now we're 40 years.
And Jerubbaal, the son of Joash, went and dwelt in his own house. And Gideon had 70 sons of his body begotten, for he had many wives. And his concubine that was in Shechem, she also bare him a son, whose name he called Abimelech. And Gideon the son of Joash died in a good old age, and was buried in the sepulchre of Joash his father, in Ophrah of the Abiezerites. And it came to pass, as soon as Gideon was dead, that the children of Israel turned again and went a whoring after Baalim, and made Baal-berith their god. And the children of Israel remembered not the Lord their God, who had delivered them out of the hands of all their enemies on every side. Neither showed they kindness to the house of Jerubbaal, namely Gideon, according to all the goodness which he had shown unto Israel.
Yes. And as I think it was Danny in the chat that added to it, these gold chains are lusted after by colored folks more than any other nationality or race, as we say in modern times. And I don't think that's by coincidence at all. There's nothing new. There's nothing new. And that completes chapter 8. And at the end of chapter 8, after the death of Gideon, guess what? Back into idolatry. And we're going to see that, man, they do not treat the remnant of the seed of Gideon, even though it's from one of his seeds, great at all. But let's read that in chapter 9. Let us read.
Judges 9. And Abimelech the son of Jerubbaal went to Shechem unto his mother's brethren, and communed with them and with all the family of the house of his mother's father, saying, Speak, I pray you, in the ears of all the men of Shechem, whether it is better for you either that all the sons of Jerubbaal, which are 70 persons, reign over you, or that one reign over you. Remember also that I am your bone and your flesh. And his mother's brethren spake of him in the ears of all the men of Shechem all these words. And their hearts inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, He is our brother. And they gave him 70 pieces of silver out of the house of Baal Berith, wherewith Abimelech hired vain and light persons which followed him. And he went unto his father's house at Ophrah, and slew his brethren the sons of Jerubbaal, being 70 persons upon one stone. Notwithstanding yet Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, was left, for he hid himself. And all the men of Shechem gathered together, and all the house of Millo, and went and made Abimelech king by the plain of the pillar that was in Shechem.
Wow. So Abimelech, the seed of Gideon, but from a woman of Shechem, uses these are non-Israelites of Shechem, saying that I'm your brother. Serve me because I'm your flesh, and come with me and let's get rid of the rest of the sons of Gideon so I have no competition as leader amongst you and throughout this land. And they go through and 60 plus 10, 70. So we're saying he slew 70. Yes, Gideon had a lot of children. 70 of the children of Gideon, excluding the youngest one. Where is he at? Right here. Jonaham and himself, Abimelech. So there's only 2 remaining, and those 2 will play a significant part remainder of this portion. But just crazy the amount of evil. Like, Gideon was your dad, and you're just this evil? Each generation and each person is its own, is all I can say. To kill 70 of your brothers and sisters blows my mind. Makes it feel like this is like a whole different world, but this is the same world, different time. Pretty sure we have people in our time that will do the same thing for money and power. Let me see. All right, let's continue. Oh, I think I have a note here. Oh, just about the amount of, for Gideon had 70 sons of his body begotten, for he had many wives. And his concubine that was in Shechem, she also bare him a son whose name was Abimelech, at the end of chapter 8 there. And so, at least based on my understanding, it was 72 if I'm mathing right, because he's slain 70 of them, 1 remained and Abimelech remained. So he had the 70, and then you separate from that, it talks of Abimelech, and unless it says that he went to slay 70 and 1 escaped, but whichever, 70 to 71 outside of Abimelech. is the amount of sons. And let me excuse, I said brothers and sisters. This says sons. All sons. Wow. All right. Let's continue now.
And when they told it to Jotham, he went and stood in the top of Mount Gerizim, and lifted up his voice, and cried and said unto them, Hearken unto me, ye men of Shechem, that God may hearken unto you. The trees went forth on a time to anoint a king over them, and they said unto the olive tree, Reign thou over us. But the olive tree said unto them, Should I leave my fatness, wherewith by me they honor God and man, and go to be promoted over the trees?
Okay, so we have a can be confusing parable here. So let me break this down. I'm just gonna pretty much give you understanding so you can comprehend as we're reading. So we have Jotham, the only son remaining outside of Abimelech of the seed of Gideon. And he goes to the men of Shechem, and he's pretty much casting judgment on them, warning them for what they're getting themselves into, putting Abimelech as their leader. And then he gives them a parable starting in verse 8. And he says, the trees went forth on a time to anoint a king over them. These trees represent man. And we see this trees being symbolic of man all throughout scripture. Mark 8:24. From a fuzzy vision, he looked up and said, I see men as trees walking. That's no coincidence, because all throughout, that's exactly what we are symbolic of. That's why we are supposed to bear fruit. How are we supposed to bear fruit? Because metaphorically, we're trees, as in Psalms 1:3. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that bring forth fruit in his season. Psalms chapter 1, gotta love it. One of my favorite chapters. Very short chapter, like a lot of the Psalms, they don't need to be long. But yes, shall be as a tree planted by rivers of water. And then even when Mashiach is speaking of himself and us, I am the vine, ye are the branches, both parts of a tree. And so this parable is playing on that, just setting the scene, right? All right. So the trees, people, and this particularly, he's speaking to Shechem. So the people of Shechem are the trees, went forth on a time to anoint a king over them. And we see that it talks about the olives, and we'll see the fig tree. It'll say all of these trees. And then it'll get to the thorn bushes. I think it's called on here bramble, but those are like bushes, thorn bushes. And they end up making the thorn bushes king over them. Like I said, I'm giving you the understanding, so when we go through it, you already know. And the whole point of this message is to say that everyone that was worthy to rule over thee said no. So you picked the meaningless thorn bushes? He's saying you picked somebody that doesn't deserve to lead. That's the equivalent of thorn bushes. Not the beautiful olive tree, not the fig tree. Well, they tried, and they said no. That's the point he's saying. He's like, you took what was left, and he is not worthy to lead and reign over thee. Now, all that being said, you'll be able to gather this understanding as we read.
And the trees said to the fig tree, Come thou, and reign over us. But the fig tree said unto them, Should I forsake my sweetness and my good fruit, and go to be promoted over the trees? Then said the trees unto the vine, Come thou, and reign over us. And the vine said unto them, Should I leave my wine, which cheereth God and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? Then said all the trees unto the bramble, Come thou, and reign over us. And the bramble said unto the trees, If in truth ye anoint me king over you, then come, and put your trust in my shadow. And if not, let fire come out of the bramble, and devour the cedars of Lebanon.
Okay, so just to see the bramble here. Just to show you the definition. Yeah, bramble, thorn, buckthorn, thorn trees. Like I said, thorn bushes is the idea of what they put thorn bushes. Like really think about that though, y'all. A tree told a thorn bush to lead them. Why would a tree have something like a thorn bush lead them, even in a metaphorically perspective? That makes no sense. Why would a thorn bush be leading trees? Because everyone that was qualified didn't, and so they picked a thorn bush. Y'all get the gist of it. And then we're seeing at the end of it, he's talking about then come and put your trust in my shadow, and if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. We're going to see that this is prophetic. This is a prophetic parable that Jotham is speaking to them. Oh, I got some notes here. 1 second. Verse 14, Septuagint. Let me look in here. Septuagint. Oh, excuse me. I'm looking at chapter 8. Okay, no. We looked at the pig. Okay, we're good. We're caught up. All right, let's continue with the rest of this parable.
Now therefore, if ye have done truly and sincerely, in that ye have made Abimelech king, and if ye have dealt well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have done unto him according to the deserving of his hands, for my father fought for you, and adventured his life far, and delivered you out of the hand of Midian. And ye are risen up against my father's house this day, and have slain his sons, 70 persons, upon one stone, and have made Abimelech the son of his maidservant king over the men of Shechem, because he is your brother. If ye then have dealt truly and sincerely with Jerubbaal and with his house this day, then rejoice ye in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice in you. But if not, let fire come out from Abimelech and devour the men of Shechem and the house of Millo. And let fire come out from the men of Shechem and from the house of Millo and devour Abimelech. And Jotham ran away and fled, and went to Beer, and dwelt there for fear of Abimelech his brother.
Jotham, that's how they're pronouncing it. All right. And this is prophetic right here. We will see verse 20 is exactly going to happen. And it's going to be by the end of this chapter, because we got quite a few more verses left. So I'm pretty much going to allow, let's keep reading starting at verse 22, and we will see this come to pass in verse 49 of this chapter, or verse 57. Well, let's read.
When Abimelech had reigned 3 years over Israel, then God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the men of Shechem. And the men of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech.
And I just wanted to say this real quick. It took 3 years for the Most High to place this judgment in the execution of all of this that we're about to read. Everything is in the Most High's timing, because Jotham had to be sick to his stomach for 3 years thinking, why has the Most High allowed Abimelech to reign? Do not question the Most High in his timing. He is just, and trust in his power and his decision making.
That the cruelty done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might come, and their blood be laid upon Abimelech their brother, which slew them, and upon the men of Shechem, which aided him in the killing of his brethren. And the men of Shechem set liers in wait for him in the top of the mountains, and they robbed all that came along that way by them. And it was told Abimelech. And Gaal, the son of Ebed, came with his brethren, and went over to Shechem. And the men of Shechem put their confidence in him. And they went out into the fields, and gathered their vineyards, and trod the grapes, and made merry, and went to the house of their God, and did eat and drink, and cursed Abimelech. And Gaal, the son of Ebed, said, Who is Abimelech, and who is Shechem, that we should serve him? Is not he the son of Jerubbaal, and Zebul his officer? Serve the men of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for why should we serve him?
All right, quick precept for verse 28. When Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, served the men of Hamor, the father of Shechem. So just connecting those dots, that Shechem, the son of Hamor, this is the actual forefathers of the land. And he's saying Abimelech is the son of Gideon. The people that the man and his seed that we have cast away and we don't want leading us. So he's like, why do we even want Abimelech? Abimelech still is the seed of Gideon. He's like, how about we actually serve people that's fully of Shechem, the father, Hamor, the father of Shechem. Why won't we serve each other, etc., etc., is the scene that's set here.
And would to God this people were under my hand, then would I remove Abimelech. And he said to Abimelech, Increase thine army, and come out. And when Zebul, the ruler of the city, heard the words of Gaal, the son of Ebed, his anger was kindled. And he sent messengers unto Abimelech privily, saying, Behold, Gaal, the son of Ebed, and his brethren be come to Shechem. And behold, they fortify the city against thee. Now therefore up by night, thou and the people that is with thee, and lie in wait in the field. And it shall be that in the morning, as soon as the sun is up, thou shalt rise early, and set upon the city, and behold, when he and the people that is with him come out against thee, then mayest thou do to them as thou shalt find occasion. And Abimelech rose up, and all the people that were with him by night, and they laid wait against Shechem in 4 companies. And Gaal the son of Ebed went out and stood in the entering of the gate of the city. And Abimelech rose up, and the people that were with him, from lying in wait. And when Gaal saw the people, he said to Zebul, Behold, there come people down from the top of the mountains. And Zebul said unto him, Thou seest the shadow of the mountains, as if they were men. And Gaal spake again and said, See, there come people down by the middle of the land, and another company come along by the plain of Meonim. Then said Zebul unto him, Where is now thy mouth wherewith thou saidst, Who is Abimelech, that we should serve him? Is not this the people that thou hast despised? Go out, I pray now, and fight with them.
Man, the Zebul is pretty cocky. He clowns them, if you don't notice, and jokes it says about the mountains. Where is it at? Behold, there come people from the top of the mountains. Zebul says to him, Thou seest a shadow of the mountains, as if they were men. Like just toying with them. And then Gaal is like, no, there is men coming from this direction. And this guy's like, oh yeah, there's Abimelech. Where's your tongue that was speaking all that smack? Now, I'm like, man, he got a mouth on him. Pretty cocky dude.
And Gaal went out before the men of Shechem, and fought with Abimelech. And Abimelech chased him, and he fled before him. And many were overthrown and wounded, even unto the entering of the gate. And Abimelech dwelt at Arumah. And Zebul thrust out Gaal and his brethren, that they should not dwell in Shechem. And it came to pass on the morrow that the people went out into the field. And they told Abimelech. And he took the people and divided them into 3 companies, and laid wait in the field, and looked. And behold, the people were come forth out of the city. And he rose up against them and smote them. And Abimelech and the company that was with him rushed forward and stood in the entering of the gate of the city. And the two other companies ran upon all the people that were in the fields and slew them. And Abimelech fought against the city all that day, and he took the city, and slew the people that was therein, and beat down the city, and sowed it with salt. And when all the men of the tower of Shechem heard that, they entered into an hold of the house of the god Berith. And it was told Abimelech that all the men of the tower of Shechem were gathered together. And Abimelech gat him up to Mount Zalmon, he and all the people that were with him. And Abimelech took an axe in his hand, and cut down a bough from the trees, and took it, and laid it on his shoulder, and said unto the people that were with him, What ye have seen me do, make haste, and do as I have done. And all the people likewise cut down every man his bough, and followed Abimelech, and put them to the hold, and set the hold on fire upon them, so that all the men of the tower of Shechem died also, about 1,000 men and women. Then went Abimelech to Thebez, and encamped against Thebez, and took it. But there was a strong tower within the city, and thither fled all the men and women, and all they of the city, and shut it to them, and gat them up to the top of the tower. And Abimelech came unto the tower, and fought against it, and went hard unto the door of the tower to burn it with fire. And a certain woman cast a piece of a millstone upon Abimelech's head, and all to break his skull. Then he called hastily unto the young man his armor-bearer, and said unto him, Draw thy sword and slay me, that men say not of me, A woman slew him. And his young man thrust him through, and he died. And when the men of Israel saw that Abimelech was dead, they departed every man unto his place. Thus God rendered the wickedness of Abimelech, which he did unto his father, in slaying his 70 brethren. And all the evil of the men of Shechem did God render upon their heads, and upon them came the curse of Jotham, the son of Jerubbaal.
All right. So yes, the review, Jotham, that was prophetically cursing the people that we read in verse 20 of this chapter. But if not, let fire come out from Abimelech and devour the men of Shechem in the house of Millo, and let fire come out from the men of Shechem and from the house of Millo and devour Abimelech. And we literally see that the men of Shechem was literally devoured by fire in verse 49. And all the people likewise cut down every man about his bough like a tree branch, followed Abimelech, and put them to the hold, and set the hold on fire upon them, so that all the men of the tower of Shechem died also, about 1,000 men and women. And then also in verse 45, and Abimelech fought against the city all that day, and he took the city and slew the people that was therein, and beat down the city and sowed it with salt. Let's look at that, with salt. We see that this is all throughout Scripture. Sowing a city with salt is a form of destruction and desolation, as we see the infamous Sodom and Gomorrah in Deuteronomy 29:23. And the whole land thereof is brimstone and salt, and burning that is not sown, nor beareth, nor any grass groweth therein, like the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah. And then Psalms 107:34, a fruitful land into barrenness, for the wickedness of them that dwell therein. Oh, I must have missed a verse. Was it the verse before or after? Let me do that real quick. I'll put the verse before and after. One of those verses around that has salt in it. Let's see. Huh. I don't know. Must have wrote down the wrong verse. Supposed to be a salt in there somewhere, but regardless, continuing. Jeremiah 17:6. For he shall be like the heath in the desert, and shall not see when good cometh, but shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, in a salt land and not inhabited. So a salt land of an inhabited land that is desolate is all throughout scripture. And so that is what we're seeing here. When they have sowed it with salt, they have destroyed the city and made it inhabitable, is what's being spoken here. Verse 53. And a certain woman cast a piece of a millstone upon Abimelech's head, and all to break his skull. And Abimelech's like, I cannot die from a woman. So he got his armor bearer to slay him with a sword. What a way to go out. Your skull being cracked open by a woman throwing out a piece of a millstone. What is a millstone? This is a millstone. So probably a piece from this wheel of some sorts. I mean, obviously it was a piece of it, but these are really big if you look at the proportion of them. Like if I was standing next to this would probably go up to my chest. These are very big. So a piece of this from a certain height most definitely will crack someone's skull wide open. And that is how Abimelech dies, and the city of Shechem is judged all in one time. And that's the completion of Judges chapter 9. All right, last chapter of this reading, very short chapter. We have some minor judges and more of the children of Israel whoring about. Let us read.
Judges 10. And after Abimelech, there arose to defend Israel Tola, the son of Puah, the son of Dodo, a man of Issachar. And he dwelt in Shamir in Mount Ephraim. And he judged Israel 23 years, and died, and was buried in Shamir. And after him arose Jair, a Gileadite, and judged Israel 22 years. And he had 30 sons that rode on 30 ass colts. And they had 30 cities, which are called Hovath Jair unto this day, which are in the land of Gilead. And Jair died, and was buried in Kaman. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord, and served Baalim and Ashtoreth, and the gods of Syria, and the gods of Zidon, and the gods of Moab, and the gods of the children of Ammon, and the gods of the Philistines, and forsook the Lord, and served not him.
And I know I've gave this definition before, but Ashtoreth is the same when they say cut down the groves. The groves is the same thing as Asherah. The groves is an idol, if I haven't said it enough. All right, verse 7.
And the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he sold them into the hands of the Philistines, and into the hands of the children of Ammon. And that year they vexed and oppressed the children of Israel 18 years, all the children of Israel that were on the other side Jordan in the land of the Amorites, which is in Gilead. Moreover, the children of Ammon passed over Jordan to fight also against Judah and against Benjamin and against the house of Ephraim, so that Israel was sore distressed. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord, saying, We have sinned against thee, both because we have forsaken our God, and also served Baalim. And the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Did not I deliver you from the Egyptians, and from the Amorites, from the children of Ammon, and from the Philistines? The Zidonians also, and the Amalekites, and the Maonites did oppress you, and ye cried to me, and I delivered you out of their hand. Yet ye have forsaken me, and served other gods. Wherefore I will deliver you no more. Go and cry unto the gods which ye have chosen. Let them deliver you in the time of your tribulation. And the children of Israel said unto the Lord, We have sinned. Do thou unto us whatsoever seemeth good unto thee. Deliver us only, we pray thee, this day. And they put away the strange gods from among them, and served the Lord. And his soul was grieved for the misery of Israel. Then the children of Ammon were gathered together and encamped in Gilead. And the children of Israel assembled themselves together, and encamped in Mizpeh. And the people and princes of Gilead said one to another, What man is he that will begin to fight against the children of Ammon? He shall be head over all the inhabitants of Gilead.
And that is where we close off this portion of reading. Only thing that, this chapter is pretty straightforward. We have, a couple of Tola, couple of other judges for 23 and Jarir, which was 22 years. And it says they have 30 sons. Just making a point of an observation I saw in Judges. For whatever reason, instead of it saying, instead of it being 20, where is it at? Yeah, 30 sons and 30 cities. The Septuagint has 32. Yeah, 32 sons and 32 coasts and 32 cities. Just if you're taking notes, that's just a note. If it comes up, there's a reason why we take these notes, because they may matter some reading or study down the line, and you won't have to go looking for it if you already have the notes, if that may lead to more understanding. And one last, the ending of this chapter, the death of Abimelech, and then we have Tola and Jair judging, and now they're under the oppression of the Amorites. And that is the conclusion of this reading. And Tudah for y'all joining me, and Shabbat Shalom once again.